What's going on, folks? Ted from Immersion here, and we keep getting more and more news dropping here in the world of Dungeons & Dragons. This time we have an article from Game Informer, of all places. This is, I think, the second time we've gotten a Game Informer article covering D&D content. So this is all about the new Forgotten Realms books that are coming out later in the year. There's two books. One's a player-facing book. One is a DM-facing book. I think this is the first time we've seen the official titles as well as the front covers. And what's also really interesting is this is the first time we are seeing Baldur's Gate 3 characters appear in a physical product that's not just like a spin-off thing. So like Karlach is on the front cover of this book. So let's go ahead and take a look at the article, which I didn't set to open. So we're going to go ahead and do that here. Let's see if we can get this open. Sorry, we're working on a mobile setup. Here we go. Okay, so the Art of D&D Forgotten Realms. Wizards of the Coast is preparing to roll out the newest iteration of D&D Forgotten Realms book later in the year with Heroes of Faerun, which is the player-targeted book, and Adventures in Faerun, which is the DM-facing book. So, again, you can see it right here. Here's the front cover of Heroes. Let me see if I can get it to open up to full screen. It has, on the front, we have Jarlaxle. We have, I don't remember her name. I think she's the new wizard like NPC. That is what we see in the player's handbook. We have Minsk and Boo, and then we have Karlach, right? So we're pulling in Baldur's Gate 3 characters right out the gate. Here's an expanded kind of image of like the front and back cover. We can see some fairy dragons. We can see what looks to maybe be a green dragon, although that doesn't have green dragon look, so I'm actually not sure what this is, but either way. Okay, so let's get back to the article. We have a lengthy multi-page feature detailing everything we could about the new version of D&D's premiere setting. So again, if you have Game Informer, I have that subscription. I don't really know what's going on with Game Informer. I've had a Game Informer subscription because I've had a GameStop account since I worked there in the early 2000s. And all of a sudden, like, the magazines just stop showing up. And like every couple months I have to remind them, hey, I still want the physical magazine. And then they're like, oh, whoops, our bad, here you go. So I don't know where mine have been, but my account is still active, so who knows. Anyway, inside it's going to include also details covering different mini settings, different narrator characters from the Forgotten Realms help narrate and flavor the book, and numerous included additions, including a new approach to magic. We've heard about this. It just seems to be like multicaster magic. As a special treat for print subscribers, we also worked with WotC to develop a double-sided poster packed into the magazine with the cover art from each of the new books, which is, again, what you're seeing here, and then we'll get to the other article or the other one that shows the player-facing or the DM-facing book. Forgotten Realms campaign setting is a long and storied history that ties closely to the growth and eventual dramatic expansion of D&D. It's more than a campaign setting for the tabletop. Hundreds of Forgotten Realms novels have helped bring new readers into the genre during the early years of fantasy fiction boom, and in a lengthy list of dozens of video games rooted in the D&D fiction. And speaking with the team that helped design the look of the books, it's clear there was a conscious effort to create a clear through line from the recent refresh of the core rulebooks to the visual style and presentation that fans will uncover in the new Forgotten Realms book. It's connective tissue to the central setting that is contrast to some of the other D&D expansions releasing over the next few months. Yeah, I'm assuming this is probably tied into some degree with what we saw with Dragon Delves, where each one of the individual adventures has a unique art style to it. If you haven't seen the Eberron book, looks like it's going to have more of like a pulp noir sort of design to the inside of it, rather than the sort of, we've had a pretty standard design philosophy for all D&D books for 5th edition. It seems like each book is kind of going to get its own style. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm kind of used to the same rigid style for like all of the books have a same certain look to them. This could go over very well, or it could not. I don't know. Let me know in the in your thoughts and opinions in the comments. Do you like the kind of painterly, paint splotchy style of the D&D 5e books that have been out so far, or would you be comfortable with all new, unique stylings for everything? Players will notice there's an intentional aesthetic bridge between the core books that came out over the last year and this year, and what we did with Forgotten Realms. Because we'll be transpiring as players picking up the books that come out the year before the Forgotten Realms releases, they're going to see in the Dragon Delves books a very different look and feel inside. Yeah, and we talked about Eberron as well. Based on the design and art I saw during my trip to Wizards of the Coast headquarters, the similarity to the earlier core rulebooks is apparent. A big part of how much the art and design team have embraced the popularity of the Forgotten Realms comes from all corners, including ample appearances from earlier video games and novels. Notably, recent stars of video games like Astarion from Baldur's Gate 3 make a prominent appearances in the book, right? We saw Karlax on the front cover. This is one of the most played and oldest settings for D&D and one of the strongest running settings there is. So there's a lot to pick from. There's a lot of novels. There's a lot of game content and adventures. So the team was very thoughtful in their choices of pulling newer faces like Karlach, also putting other characters that might be more integrated, like Drizzt or Dragonbait. And here we can see sort of an iteration of this, showing us Xanathar in multiple iterations before the final product here. It was also fascinating to see the process the design team undertakes with individual artists to define and refine individual art pieces. Again, we just talked about that. We've got some additional art and a bevy of details on the new Forgotten Realms book available to explore right now. If you're a subscriber, you can head right over and check out the new issue. If you haven't subscribed, we hope you consider doing so. Since our relaunch of Game Informer, we've committed to including an increasing presence of tabletop games like D&D. Your support for these kinds of articles helps us bring you more coverage of board games, role-playing games, etc. Here's some more art here. This is showing off the Scion of the Three, the new rogue subclass that's tied to the Dead 3 from Baldur's Gate. And then again, here is the front cover of the DM-facing book, right? Adventures in Faerun. And this actually is packed with a ton of little Easter eggs here. So this is a Valindra Shadowmantle. If you read any of the Drizzt novels, or you also played, was it Neverwinter, the MMO? Like Valindra was one of the main villains of that, so that's her. But even in this image, you can see there's a Mind Flayer here. There's a Beholder up here. We've got a Hook Horror climbing up the side here. There's some kobolds. But if we were to go to the next kind of larger image, we can see the heroes from the front cover over here. We've got a couple of rust monsters. There's a Flump hiding up here. Looks like maybe a spider. We've got a bunch of gnolls here in the front. Maybe a Minotaur down here. A whole bunch of little Easter egg options if you really dive in and look into all the little corners of this art piece. So the question becomes, is my subscription still intact? Can we log in and see the full article? Let's see. Head over to our newest issue. All right. Subscribe now. Let's see. Can I just log in? If we can do it, let's just try. All right. Well, I guess I don't have an active account right now, so maybe we can go ahead and do that at some point, or, I would like to get the physical one just so I can see the poster. Also, sorry, I'm kind of jittery here. I don't know what's going on with that. But anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. What do you think about this new take on maybe updating the art styles in all of the books, having them have their own unique art style going forward, as well as having, characters like Karlach and Astarion in a new Forgotten Realms book? Again, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. I'll see you all next time.